they're all number one. I need that kind of help. So that was my.
You know what, Brother McGee, much like you, I didn't select this class. This class chose me. And it was because of the period I was in my life. There were some things that happened. And here's how you know if you've forgiven. If somebody's name comes up, or a situation comes up, or a song comes up, or a memory comes up, and you have a visceral reaction, meaning something in your body responds. You get mad, you get sad, you get heated, you feel your mood shifts. So you originally were doing well, and then boom, something triggered that memory, and you still are emotionally tied to it, then you haven't worked through your process. And that's where I was. And I said, oh, like Jayla, I thought we dealt with this. I forgave you. I said the words, but didn't do the process. And so I wanted to learn more about what does this process look like? Because God told us to do it, and everything that he tells us to do is for our benefit. So I knew that I needed to learn the process, but I didn't know the process because I thought just saying audibly, I forgive you, I release you, right? No, you didn't. Because when you see that person, you don't even want to make eye contact, or you go the other way, or you have this response. So I wanted to learn more about what is the process of forgiveness.
Well, for me, I don't know how I got in this class either, but I can see why the timing is so perfect for me because I'm coming up on a year of being released from the guy that murdered my son, having to go to trial and all that. In fact, that's next weekend. So for me, where I thought, and I really, really still want to try and convince myself that I've forgiven this guy that murdered my son. It was a situation that had came up a couple weeks ago where I knew somebody that was in the same facility as this guy, and he liked to fight. So I was thinking like, ooh wee, I could let him know that dude in there too, So then that made me consider my, self and say, did you really forgive him? Have you really, really forgiven him? Because if I really forgiven him, then I shouldn't have had those feelings come up. So I needed a class. God knew I needed it.
Okay, you know my situation. It's ongoing, so how can I forget it? If I'm going through some of the stuff I walked up to her and say I forgive you for it. But if it's ongoing, how you forget it? Like she had stuff going last week. She was attacking my child. So like, I don't know how I was supposed to forgive her for that. And I haven't seen my grandkids in almost 4 years. So how am I supposed to forgive her for that?
Well, and I think like it kind of goes with almost what everybody said in that first little paragraph that we read. I mean, it's easy to say, yeah, I forgive you. And I feel like in a lot of situations I've gotten to where I don't think about it on a regular, like maybe I used to, and you think, okay, that's forgiveness because I'm past it. But then, like the reaction thing, or like something that brings it back, and it's like your first thought is that. So obviously, there's more to it. So for me, I feel like I've moved past the first step of a lot of the things. Like it doesn't just beat me down every day, but things can trigger it relatively easy in the right circumstance. And there's got to be more to just being like, oh yeah, I forgive you. I'm not thinking about it because there will probably be things that make you think about it, and you need to know what to do in those moments, like how to bring yourself back to being okay. So I've learned more about that just sitting here in the 20 minutes of everybody talking about all this of the levels, that there is more to it, because I'm not angry about certain things. You know, I feel like I've been done wrong by people that, yeah, I used to be angry, walk around like a chip on my shoulder about certain things because they were people that were super close to me or whatever. And, you know, now I'm like, okay, I'm not going to let that beat me down moving forward because it holds me back. But there are things that can happen that you're just like, whoa, you know, like, I mean, because I can honestly say I don't really want to run into them face to face, you know, or, you know, things like that. Like, that will change my attitude in that moment. And, you know, so obviously that goes for a lot of things, whether it's friends that you feel like did you wrong, or, you know, things that you went through with your spouse or your significant other or in relationships. I mean, there are certain things. And then if you have more than one person in the situation and everybody gets triggered, you know, then I mean, because everybody knows how to trigger somebody else if they really want to, you know. And so there's got to be more to it than just being like, yeah, I forgive you and I don't really think about it, because in hindsight you really do, you know. I mean, so
Well, I just want to say thank you all for sharing something that I've learned through life, but also through this book. You don't always have to respond when somebody is vulnerable, because sometimes people don't want advice or any feedback. So really, I just was asking you all if you wanted to share to get some things off of your heart. And throughout this process, we will be able to have some more, shed some more light on how to navigate through the different things that you all have shared. So I just want to say thank you for that. With time winding up quickly, I'm just going to kind of talk about some things and then read a couple of things, and then we're going to wrap up for the day. So also in the intro chapter, some of like what I heard you all sharing, she talks about BC and AD. And although those stand for something else in a timeline, here she's talking about before a crisis and then after devastation. So I'm sure we could all take a moment and think about one big thing that we needed to forgive, or one big thing that has happened that kind of rocked us, and how we kind of looked at life, looked at relationships, looked at how we trust people, maybe even how we trust ourselves and God prior to a situation happening, or that one situation happening, and then kind of how that changed our outlook, and how now we, you know, myself personally, how some things have unconsciously made me change how I trust people that I may have trusted before that didn't do anything to me, how I move forward with connecting with people and having relationships because something happened. And so sometimes, like he was just explaining, I don't remember your name right now, but I'm going to have it soon. Ryan? Okay. Just talking about how you think that you had got over something, but then you realize you actually have carried it onto how you have relationships moving forward, or how you view people moving forward. And it stemmed from something that happened when you were 12 and you didn't even realize it. And now you've carried that throughout your adult life. And until you actually go through the journey of forgiveness, it don't make sense, or you don't even realize that that's how you're operating, but that is how you're operating, and it's due to something that you haven't necessarily thoroughly healed from. And so I thought that that was kind of cool how she used the BC and AD. So on page 5, just discussing what forgiveness is and isn't, because something else that I heard Sister Callie say was she shouldn't be feeling those feelings towards the, you know, wanting to get homeboy touched on while he was in prison. And I think sometimes we fault ourselves for having fleshly feelings, and that, I'm going to read out the book. Okay, so the difference between what forgiveness is and is not. So page 5, at the very bottom, starting with the ability. The ability to see beautiful again is what I want for you and for me. Forgiveness is the weapon. Our choices moving forward are the battlefield. Moving on in the journey, Being released from the heavy feeling is the reward. Regaining the possibility of trust and closeness is the sweet victory. And walking confidently with the Lord from hurt to healing is the freedom that awaits. That is what this book is, a journey where you'll discover new ways, healthy and helpful ways, to process your pain. And then, sorry, y'all, I'm using somebody else's book. On page 6, down at the bottom, it says, forgiveness is possible, but it won't always feel possible. Forgiveness often feels like one of the most maddening instructions from the Lord. And then hopping over to page 7. So this is the difference between what forgiveness is and isn't. At the bottom, it says, forgiveness isn't an act of my determination. Forgiveness is only made possible by my cooperation. And so, once again, she reiterates in this book, and we're going to reiterate in here, if we are not leaning on the Lord and having that heart of willingness, you are not going to be able to forgive nobody. Because even if you do have, and you feel like you have the heart of willingness, which is what I feel and what people have said to me, sometimes my heart is willing to forgive people, maybe because I don't want to carry the weight, or because I want that relationship. But if I'm not going through the journey with Christ, if you catch me on the wrong week, I actually could care less about forgiving you. And I may only feel like that for 24 to 48 hours, and I may be able to wrap it back around and be like, okay, Jayla, let's get back to who God created you to be. But if you're not walking that out intentionally with God, there are going to be some days where your heart is not the heart of God, and you don't want to forgive them, and you need to lean back on God. Or like I said, fleshly, you may be feeling like, okay, I've been doing good. I haven't seen this person. I ain't tripped on this person. Or maybe I even saw him and I was able to say hi this time. And usually I duck and dodge through the aisles at the grocery store. But this time, we got to pass each other. Hey, and I keep it moving. But actually, I was cringing the whole time. Or I actually, in my head, I was thinking like, I should have took the bread aisle. so I didn't have to see that person. And I've done that. Go ahead, Brother McGee.
So forgiveness. Personally, I think I heard somebody say, "How can I forget and forgive?" I think those are two different things. Two different things. You're not going to forget some things you don't want to forget. If you're in an unhealthy, abusive relationship, yeah, you can forgive that person, but you don't want to lose sight of that and continue putting yourself in that situation. So you're not going to forget it. Sometimes remembering it is a growth opportunity, things you need to remember. So how can you forget something? We're not a human. We're not the type of people, a creature, that you can erase a memory. Yeah. It doesn't work like that, okay? But you can forgive, and we need to forgive. And there's a whole lot of reasons why we need to forgive. But what I'm trying to say is, don't beat yourself up over, I need to forget it. No, you know that. I'm just, in my opinion, you're lying to yourself, because there's no eraser that says I'm going to erase this memory. You know, you may have some brain injuries or something that will amnesia that will erase it. But as a functioning human being, we're not creatures that made with an eraser that we can hit and erase it in our brain. We don't operate like that. But forgiveness, we can make a choice on that. Okay, so that's all.
And I will say thank you for that, because in this book, she actually, because she's talking about her spouse, she is talking about how you can't forget it. And so part of that journey is actually, I probably will never forget what you did, and don't want to forget what you did, but I can still act out obedience and healing of forgiveness while still knowing that I remember what you did and how you did it and what you had on that day and what it smelled like and what room we was in. So with wrapping up this class, because our time has already come to an end, I hope that something in this class was relatable and made you realize why God is allowing you to take this course. And so I do have a journal take-home activity. One of them is going to be something that you are not, well, actually, these are not things that you're going to share or send, but it is something that I would like for you all to do. So the first thing is you're going to write a letter to someone who hurt you, where you get to express your pain as well as your desire to heal. They will not get this letter. You're not sending it to them, but this is your opportunity to put it on the floor. That's what we like to say. To go ahead and release that. I know personally journaling does a lot for me, but writing that letter, pen to paper, letting them know what they did, how it made you feel, how it's affected you to this day, but then also reiterating that you want to let this go and you want to heal from it and you don't want them to have that power over you anymore. So that's the first thing. And then our prayer prompt for this week and throughout this class is to ask God, because once again, like I said, I started this class thinking that I do a good job at forgiving. Not saying that I don't at all, but that I definitely need to continue to work on it. But asking God to reveal any bitterness that you may have, because once again, sometimes we have a hard time pinpointing what it was that happened, but you know that, you know, the friendships or you trying to date or, you know, being married and something is messing with you and you're not able to really put your full self into it or whatever you may feel. Sometimes we need God's help to reveal the bitterness that we didn't necessarily know that we had, and to also give you the strength, because going throughout this class, it is gonna get emotional. First of all, I'm surprised I didn't cry today, and I ain't even said nothing. Oh, this table moves. But yeah, so emotions are going to come up, and things that you may not know that you have suppressed down up in there. Hopefully God will bring that out in you and then also give you some relatable things to be able to obediently and healthily go through this journey. So those are the two things that we would like for you all to have done and come back with next week. And we look forward to forgiving what we can't forget with the rest of you all. So thank you all for coming. Go ahead.